Seattle is often reduced to a handful of familiar images: rain, coffee, ferries, mountains, tech offices, and the Space Needle. But the real story is larger than any skyline shot. Seattle is the most populous city in Washington state and the largest city in the Pacific Northwest. By 2025, its population was estimated at 784,777, making it one of the major urban centers of the United States. Its wider metropolitan area, with more than 4.15 million residents, ranks among the largest in the country. What makes Seattle especially interesting is not just its size, but how quickly it grew and how many different forces shaped it. Geography, indigenous history, maritime trade, resource extraction, aviation, software, immigration, and music all collided here. Seattle became a city where the edge of the continent turned into a gateway to the world. Seattle's geography is one of the main reasons the city matters. It sits on a narrow strip of land between Puget Sound, an inlet of the Pacific Ocean, and Lake Washington. This location gives the city water on both sides, creating a landscape of hills, bays, bridges, ferries, ports, and neighborhoods shaped by shorelines. Seattle is also the northernmost major city in the United States, located roughly 100 miles south of the Canadian border. That position placed it at a strategic crossroads, close enough to Alaska to serve as a launching point, close enough to Asia-Pacific trade routes to become commercially important, and surrounded by natural resources that fueled early industry. Unlike cities that grew on flat plains, Seattle developed around water barriers and steep terrain. Its geography did not simply frame the city, it directed its economy, movement, and identity. Long before Seattle became a modern city, the area was home to native peoples for at least 4,000 years. The Duwamish and other Coast Salish peoples lived around Elliott Bay, Lake Washington, and nearby waterways, with at least 17 Duwamish villages in the Elliott Bay area. These communities were not temporary camps, they were complex societies organized around fishing, canoe travel, seasonal harvests, trade, family networks, and deep relationships with the land and water. Salmon, shellfish, cedar, and river systems were central to everyday life. Understanding Seattle begins with recognizing that it was not an empty frontier waiting to be built. It was already a place with names, routes, stories, and governance. The modern city grew on indigenous homelands, and its name itself points back to that older history. The permanent Euro-American settlement that became Seattle began in 1851, when Arthur A. Denny and the group later known as the Denny Party arrived from Illinois by way of Portland, Oregon. They landed at Alki Point on the schooner Exact on November 13 of that year. Alki Point sits across Elliott Bay from today's downtown, and the first settlement there struggled with exposure and practical limitations. In 1852, the settlers moved to the eastern shore of Elliott Bay, where the harbor offered better conditions for growth. The settlement was named Seattle in honor of Chief Seattle, a prominent 19th-century leader connected to the Duwamish and Suquamish peoples. That naming reflects a complicated historical relationship, a city bearing an indigenous leader's name while expanding through colonial settlement and reshaping native homelands. Seattle's first major industry was logging, and this early economy left a lasting mark on the city. The surrounding forests were immense, and timber became the raw material that allowed the settlement to expand, build, export, and attract capital. Logs moved through waterways, mills turned forests into lumber, and the young town became connected to wider markets. In the 19th century, this was a classic pattern of Pacific Northwest development: extract natural resources, process them near navigable water, and ship them outward. Logging also reshaped the environment, clearing land for streets, buildings, and industry. Seattle's growth was not inevitable, it was built from the commercial value of forests and the advantage of having a harbor. The city's early identity was practical, rough, and resource-driven before it became known for technology or culture. By the late 19th century, Seattle had become more than a lumber town. It was turning into a commercial and shipbuilding center, and one event accelerated that transformation: the Klondike Gold Rush. When gold was discovered in the Yukon in the 1890s, Seattle positioned itself as a gateway to Alaska and the northern gold fields. Prospectors needed supplies, transportation, equipment, food, and services, and Seattle businesses aggressively marketed the city as the place to outfit the journey. Even people who never found gold helped enrich the city by spending money before heading north. This is one of the classic ironies of gold rush economies. The most reliable profits often came not from mining, but from selling to miners. Seattle's port, merchants, and shipping links all gained from this boom. Seattle's role as a port city has remained central into the modern era. The Port of Seattle became one of the most important gateways for trade with the Asia-Pacific region. As of 2021, it ranked as the fourth largest port in North America in terms of container handling. That means Seattle is not just a scenic city beside the water, it is part of the infrastructure of global commerce. Containers moving through the port represent supply chains linking factories, retailers, farms, warehouses, and consumers across oceans. The city's location on Puget Sound gives it sheltered maritime access, while its position on the Pacific makes it a natural partner in trade with Asia. The port connects Seattle's local economy to global shipping networks, reinforcing the importance of geography in its rise. After World War II, Seattle's economy was transformed by aviation, especially through Boeing. Boeing helped establish the region as a major center for aircraft manufacturing, bringing skilled jobs, industrial investment, engineering expertise, and waves of workers. Aviation changed Seattle's image from a port and resource city into a high-skill manufacturing hub. This also made the local economy vulnerable to the cycles of the aerospace industry. When aircraft demand rose, the region boomed. When it fell, Seattle felt the downturn sharply. Still, Boeing's presence helped create a workforce and culture comfortable with large-scale engineering and technological complexity. That mattered later, because Seattle's technology economy did not appear out of nowhere. It grew in a region already shaped by advanced manufacturing, technical education, logistics, and ambitious industrial problem-solving. Beginning in the 1980s, the Seattle area entered another major phase, the rise of technology. Microsoft established its headquarters in the region, helping turn the area into one of the most important software centers in the world. The growth of software, biotechnology, and internet companies brought new wealth, new workers, and a new global reputation. Between 1990 and 2000, the city's population increased by almost 50,000, a sign of the economic revival powered by these industries. Tech changed the housing market, job market, and cultural atmosphere of Seattle. It also intensified debates about affordability, growth, and inequality. The city became a magnet for educated workers and venture capital, but rapid prosperity came with pressure, rising rents, neighborhood change, and questions about who gets to remain in a booming city. Seattle's growth has been striking in the 21st century. Between 2010 and 2020, the city grew by 21.1%, making it one of the fastest-growing large cities in the United States. This growth reflects the pull of high-paying jobs, strong regional industries, and the broader attraction of the Pacific Northwest. But rapid population growth also reshapes daily life. More residents mean more demand for housing, transit, schools, parks, and infrastructure. Neighborhoods change as older buildings are replaced, new apartments rise, and longtime communities face displacement pressures. Seattle's metropolitan area now holds more than 4.15 million people, showing that the city's influence extends far beyond its municipal boundaries. Modern Seattle is not just downtown and the waterfront, it is a regional urban system tied together by employment, transportation, and housing markets. Seattle's population is also culturally diverse. The city has significant Native American communities and many residents with Asian, African, and European ancestry. Its location on the Pacific Rim, its port economy, and its role as a growing metropolitan center all helped shape that diversity. Seattle has also been recognized for its LGBT community. As of 2015, it had the fifth highest percentage of residents identifying as LGBT among major U.S. metropolitan areas, at 4.8%. These demographics matter because they influence the city's politics, neighborhoods, restaurants, festivals, activism, and public identity. Seattle is often seen as progressive, but that label simplifies a more complex city marked by migration, inequality, inclusion, displacement, and civic debate. Its social character has been built through many communities negotiating space in a rapidly changing urban environment. Seattle's cultural influence is especially powerful in music. From 1918 to 1951, nearly 24 jazz nightclubs operated along Jackson Street, stretching from today's Chinatown International District toward the Central District. That jazz scene helped nurture artists such as Ernestine Anderson, Ray Charles, and Quincy Jones. Decades later, Seattle became globally famous for rock and grunge, producing or shaping artists and bands including Jimi Hendrix, Heart, Foo Fighters, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden. Grunge in particular gave the city a raw, introspective sound that seemed to match its weathered industrial edges and gray skies. Seattle's music history shows that cities are not only built by ports, factories, and companies. They are also built by clubs, rehearsal rooms, local scenes, and young artists turning regional experience into global culture. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.